Alert, a human warship is here, and the battle will never be the same. The stars burned cold and distant in the system, a lonely corner of space that had belonged to the Dominion for 300 years. No one challenged the here. No one dared. Their empire stretched across 47 star systems, their fleets numbered in the thousands, and their reputation for cruelty was known to every species in the galaxy. Fleet Commander stood on the elevated command platform of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, watching the tactical display with the bored expression of a predator who had not faced a real threat in decades. His scales were dark green, almost black, and his 4 yellow eyes moved slowly across the holographic map of the system. Behind him, 200 crew members worked at their stations in perfect silence. No one spoke unless spoken to. No one moved unless ordered. That was the way. "Status report," said, his voice deep and rumbling like stones grinding together. Sub-Commander, his second-in-command, stepped forward and bowed his head in submission. "All systems nominal, Commander. The fleet is in standard patrol formation. No anomalies detected in the past rotation." Let out a long breath through his nostrils. Another boring day in another boring system. He longed for the old times when they were still expanding, still conquering, still crushing lesser species beneath their claws. Those days were mostly over now. The galaxy had learned to fear them, and fear meant peace. A peace that found deeply unsatisfying. "What of the human colony?" he asked, almost as an afterthought. "Consulted his, destroyed as ordered, Commander. Our strike force reported complete success. Approximately 4,000 casualties, no survivors." Nodded slowly. The humans. He barely remembered authorizing that attack. Some minor species from an unremarkable system on the far side of the galaxy. They had been expanding into territory that they considered theirs, building colonies on worlds that were not worth fighting over but were worth making a point about. So had sent a small fleet to remind them of their place in the galactic order. "Any response from their government?" he asked. "None, Commander. Our intelligence suggests they are too primitive to mount any kind of retaliation. Their fleet consists of perhaps 200 vessels, most of them small patrol ships. They would not dare challenge us." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Of course they would not. They are insects, less than insects. They probably do not even understand what happened to them." He was about to turn away and retire to his quarters when the tactical officer's voice cut through the silence of the bridge. "Commander, I am detecting an anomalous signature at the edge of the system." Paused. "Anomalous?" "Yes, Commander. A single vessel has just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. It does not match any known design. Running identification now." Walked slowly toward the tactical station, his claws clicking against the metal floor. On the display, a small blue dot had appeared at the very edge of the system, approximately 8 light minutes from the fleet's current position. "One ship," said. "Just one." "Confirmed, Commander. A single vessel, approximately 400 meters in length. It is broadcasting an identification signal." "Put it on the main display." The holographic projector hummed to life, and a new image appeared above the command platform. It showed a ship unlike anything had ever seen. It was angular and utilitarian, painted in a dull gray that made it almost invisible against the darkness of space. There were no decorations, no markings of rank or honor, just a simple designation on the hull in an alien script. The translation matrix processed the signal for several seconds before the words appeared in script. "USS Defiance, Terran Confederacy Navy, do not engage." Stared at the message for a long moment. Then he began to laugh. It started as a low chuckle and built into a roaring sound that echoed across the bridge. His officers shifted uncomfortably at their stations, uncertain whether they should join in. "Terran," said, still laughing. "They call themselves Terrans, and they are telling us not to engage." He turned to, his eyes bright with amusement. "Do we have any information on this species?" pulled up the intelligence files, scrolling through pages of data. Very little, Commander. They call themselves humans. There is a small planet called Earth, located in what they call the Sol system. They have only been spacefaring for approximately 2 of their centuries. Our scouts classified them as a minor species with no strategic significance. And yet they have sent a warship into our territory, said, his laughter fatting into something colder. One warship, against a fleet of 47 vessels. Either they are fools or they are insane. Perhaps both, Commander. Considered the situation. The smart thing to do would be to ignore the human ship, to let it pass through the system and return to wherever it came from. One small vessel posed no threat to his fleet. It was not worth the ammunition to destroy it. But was not feeling smart. He was feeling bored, and this human ship had presented him with an opportunity to relieve that boredom. Signal the fleet, he said. All ships are to form attack formation. We will show these humans what happens to those who enter space without permission. Hesitated. Commander, is that wise? The human ship has done nothing aggressive. If we destroy it without provocation, it could create diplomatic complications. Turned to face his second-in-command, and the look in his eyes made take an involuntary step backward. Diplomatic complications. With a species that has 200 ships, what are they going to do, send us an angry message? He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. I have been sitting in this system for 3 years, 3 years of nothing. No battles, no conquests, no glory. And now a single human ship has wandered into my territory like a lost animal. I am going to destroy it, and then I am going to send a message to their government telling them exactly what I did, and there is nothing they can do about it. Bowed his head, as you command, Fleet Commander. The fleet began to move. On the bridge of the USS Defiance, Captain Daniel watched the enemy ships shift into attack formation with a calm expression that his crew found both reassuring and slightly unnerving. He was a tall man in his early 50s, with gray hair cut short and eyes the color of storm clouds. He had been in the Confederate Navy for 30 years, and he had seen enough battles to know when one was about to begin. They are moving to intercept, said Lieutenant Commander from the weapons station. She was younger than by almost 20 years, with red hair pulled back in a tight braid and freckles scattered across her nose. Her fingers moved across her console with practiced efficiency, pulling up targeting data and weapons readouts. 47 ships total. 1 dreadnought, 12 cruisers, 20 destroyers, and 14 support vessels. The dreadnought is their flagship. That is where their commander will be. Nodded slowly. Time to intercept. At their current speed, approximately 12 minutes. Good, that gives us time to prepare. He turned to his helmsman, Lieutenant Ben, a young man from the colony world of New Texas who had a reputation for being the best pilot in the fleet. Ben, take us to Condition Red. All hands to battle stations. Nodded and activated the intercom. All hands, this is the bridge. Battle stations. Repeat, all hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. The lights on the bridge shifted from standard white to deep crimson. Throughout the ship, crew members who had been eating, sleeping, or relaxing immediately dropped what they were doing and ran to their assigned positions. The Defiance had a crew of 312, and every single one of them knew exactly where they needed to be and what they needed to do. In the engineering section, Chief Engineer Lieutenant Commander Torres pulled herself out from under a console where she had been making adjustments to the power distribution system. She was a small woman with dark hair and oil stains on her uniform, and she had been keeping the Defiance running for the past 5 years through a combination of technical genius and sheer stubbornness. All right, people, she called out to her engineering team, you heard the captain. I want all systems at maximum efficiency. If anything breaks, fix it. If it cannot be fixed, bypass it. This ship is going to need everything we have got. Her team responded with a chorus of acknowledgments, each of them moving to their stations with the speed and precision of a well-rehearsed dance. Back on the bridge, Commander Greg Palmer looked up from the tactical station. He was the oldest member of the bridge crew, a veteran of the border wars who had turned down multiple promotions because he preferred being in the thick of things to sitting behind a desk. "Captain, the flagship is hailing us. They are demanding our surrender." Allowed himself a thin smile, put them through. The main flickered, and Fleet Commander appeared. His reptilian face was twisted into an expression that might have been contempt or amusement or both. Behind him, the bridge of the Eternal Conquest stretched into the distance, filled with hundreds of officers working at their stations. "Human vessel," said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute confidence, "you have entered sovereign space. You will power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Your crew will be taken for processing. Your ship will be stripped for parts. This is not a negotiation." Looked at the alien commander for a long moment, studying his face. He saw arrogance there, pride, and something else, something that recognized from his long years of service. Boredom. This commander was bored. He had been sitting in this system for too long with nothing to do, and now he saw the Defiance as an opportunity for entertainment. He was not taking this seriously. He did not see the human ship as a threat. That was his first mistake. "Fleet Commander," said, keeping his voice calm and measured, "I am Captain Daniel of the Terran Confederacy Navy. I am here because your forces attacked a human colony 3 weeks ago. You killed 4,000 of our people, men, women, and children. I am here to deliver our response." His eyes narrowed slightly, but his confident expression did not waver. That colony was in disputed territory. They were warned. Their deaths are meaningless in the greater scheme of things. "I disagree," replied. "And so does my government. You have one chance to stand down and return to your home system. If you refuse, I will destroy your fleet." For several seconds, stared at the human captain as if trying to determine whether he was serious. Then the commander burst into harsh, clicking laughter that echoed through the bridge of both ships. "One ship," said between laughs. "You are going to destroy my fleet with one ship, against 47. He leaned forward, his yellow eyes gleaming. "You are either insane or suicidal, human." Shook his head. "Neither, I'm just very, very angry." He nodded to Palmer, who terminated the transmission. The bridge of the Defiance fell silent. Every officer on the bridge was looking at their captain, waiting for his orders. They had all known this moment was coming. They had all volunteered for this mission. But now that it was here, now that they were facing an enemy fleet that outnumbered them 47-1, the reality of their situation was starting to sink in. Was the first to speak. "Captain, permission to speak freely." "Granted." "We are really doing this, taking on 47 ships with one destroyer." Turned to face her, and she saw something in his eyes that made her straighten in her seat. It was not madness. It was not desperation. It was certainty. The absolute, unshakable certainty of a man who knew exactly what he was doing. "Lieutenant Commander," he said, 3 weeks ago they killed 4,000 of our people. They bombed a colony that had no defenses, no military presence, nothing but families trying to build a new life. And they did it because they thought we were too weak to respond. They thought we would accept their terms, bow our heads, and let them do whatever they wanted." He paused, looking around the bridge at each of his officers in turn. "They were wrong. We are not here to negotiate. We are not here to make peace. We are here to teach the Dominion a lesson that they will never forget. A lesson about what happens when you harm the people under our protection." He turned back to where the fleet was growing larger as they closed the distance. "All stations report ready," he commanded. One by one the reports came in. Weapons ready, shields ready, engines ready, medical bay ready, damage control teams standing by. The Defiance was ready. "Ben," said to his helmsman, "when the shooting starts, I want you to show these what a human pilot can do. No predictable patterns. No straight lines. Make them work for every shot." Grinned, "Aye, Captain, they will not know what hit them." "Greg, I want targeting solutions on their flagship the moment we are in range. We are going to make an example of them." Palmer nodded, "Already working on it, sir." "Hold our missiles in reserve. We will use the first. Let us see how their shields hold up against kinetic weapons." His fingers flew across her console. "Armed and ready, Captain. Targeting computers are locked on." Settled back in his command chair, his eyes fixed on the approaching enemy fleet. They were less than 5 minutes away now. Soon, the shooting would start. "Captain," Palmer said, "they are powering up their primary batteries. They are preparing to fire." "Let them make the first move," replied. "I want there to be no doubt about who started this." The wait felt like an eternity, even though it was only a few minutes. On the fleet grew larger and larger until it filled the entire display. The Eternal Conquest was at the center, surrounded by cruisers and destroyers in a formation that was designed to overwhelm a single target with concentrated fire. It was a good formation. Against most enemies, it would have been devastating. But they had never fought humans before. "Enemy weapons are firing," Palmer announced. The space between the two forces lit up with green fire as thousands of plasma bolts streaked toward the Defiance. Each one was a superheated ball of energy capable of melting through standard hull plating. Together, they represented enough firepower to crack a small moon. "Ben now," said calmly. Lieutenant was already moving. His hands danced across the helm controls, and the Defiance twisted away from her previous position with a burst of acceleration that would have killed an unprotected human. The ship's inertial dampeners strained to compensate, and everyone on the bridge felt their stomachs lurch as the vessel pulled maneuvers that should have been impossible for something her size. The plasma bolts passed through empty space where the Defiance had been a moment before. A few struck glancing blows against her shields, but the vast majority missed entirely. On the Eternal Conquest, Fleet Commander watched in confusion as the human ship evaded his fleet's opening salvo. How did they do that? Their acceleration should not be possible for a ship of that class. "I do not know, Commander," the tactical officer replied, his voice uncertain. "Their maneuvering capability is far beyond our projections." "Target them again. All ships concentrate fire." The fleet adjusted their aim and fired again, and again, and again. But each time the Defiance was somewhere else, twisting and rolling through the void like a fish through water. Her movements were unpredictable, almost random, and the targeting systems could not keep up. "Our turn," said, "open fire." The Defiances came to life. The technology was simple in concept but devastating in practice. Electromagnetic rails accelerated tungsten slugs to a significant fraction of the speed of light, turning them into projectiles with more kinetic energy than a nuclear warhead. The shields, designed to absorb and dissipate energy weapons, had no defense against solid objects moving at such velocities. The first volley struck a cruiser amidships. The slugs punched through its shields as if they were not there, tore through the hull plating, and exited the other side of the ship in a spray of debris and atmosphere. For a moment, the cruiser continued on its course. Then its reactor containment failed, and it exploded in a ball of white fire. The second volley hit two destroyers simultaneously. One lost its entire bridge section and went spiraling out of control into the void. The other simply broke apart, its structural integrity compromised by multiple impacts. In less than 10 seconds, the Defiance had destroyed 3 enemy vessels. On the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, Sub-Commander watched the tactical display with growing horror. "Commander, we have lost the crushing tide, the savage claw, and the merciless storm. They are just gone." Gripped the arms of his command chair so hard that his claws left gouges in the metal. "Impossible. How are they doing this? What kind of weapons are those?" "Kinetic projectiles, Commander. They are using magnetically accelerated solid ammunition. Our shields are designed for energy weapons. The physical impacts are passing right through. Then close the distance, roared. Our shields will hold at close range, overwhelm them with numbers. The fleet surged forward, abandoning their careful formation in favor of an all-out assault. They were angry now. They were afraid, and fear made them dangerous. But it also made them careless. Lieutenant saw the opening immediately. "Captain, they are breaking formation. I can get us behind their main line." "Do it." The Defiance dove forward, accelerating straight toward the oncoming fleet. For a moment, it looked like the human ship was on a suicide run, heading directly into the teeth of enemy fire. Then, at the last possible second, pulled up hard, taking the Defiance over the top of the formation and behind their main battle line. Suddenly, the human ship was among them, too close for their heavy weapons to track, too fast for their point defense to target, and still firing. The Defiance carved a path of destruction through the fleet. Her spoke again and again, each volley claiming another victim. A destroyer here, a cruiser there. Ships that had dominated this sector for centuries were being picked off one by a vessel a fraction of their size. In the engineering section, Chief Torres monitored the power output with growing concern. The Defiance was running hot, her systems pushed to their absolute limits. They were drawing enormous amounts of energy, and the maneuvering thrusters were working overtime to keep the ship ahead of enemy fire. "Captain," she called over the comm, "we are at 92% reactor capacity. If we push much harder, we risk a core breach." "Understood, Chief," replied. "How long can you keep us running at this level?" Torres did some quick calculations in her head. "Maybe 20 minutes. After that, I cannot make any guarantees." "That should be enough. Keep her flying." "Aye, Captain." Back on the bridge, Commander Palmer reported the damage they were inflicting. 12 enemy vessels destroyed, Captain. 6 more have taken significant damage and are falling back. The rest are regrouping around their flagship. Nodded. They are learning. They know they cannot catch us in open space, so they are concentrating their forces. Smart. "What do we do, sir?" "We give them what they want," leaned forward in his chair. "Ben, bring us around. We are going after the flagship." Looked back at his captain with raised eyebrows. "The flagship? That dreadnought is 3 times our size, sir." "I know, but their commander is on that ship. If we take him out, the rest of the fleet will lose coordination. They will panic." "And if we do not take him out?" Smiled grimly. "Then we will have made a very impressive last stand." Shook his head, but he was smiling too. "Aye, Captain, bringing us around." The Defiance turned in a wide arc, bleeding off speed as she came about to face the flagship. The Eternal Conquest was waiting for her, surrounded by the remaining vessels of the fleet. They had formed a defensive sphere around their commander, presenting a wall of guns to the human ship. Fleet Commander watched the human vessel approach on his. His scales had gone pale, and his 4 eyes were wide with an emotion he had not felt in years. "Fear." Commander said quietly, "We should retreat. We have lost half our fleet. This enemy is beyond anything we have faced before." "Retreat," turned on his second-in-command with a snarl. "I have never retreated in my life. I will not start now, not against one ship, not against these humans." "But Commander—" "Silence," slammed his fist against the arm of his chair. "All ships maintain formation. When that human vessel comes within range, destroy it. I do not care how many ships we lose. I will not be humiliated by a species that was crawling through the mud when our empire was already ancient." The fleet tightened their formation, their weapons tracking the approaching Defiance. Every gun was trained on the human ship. Every targeting computer was locked on. When the Defiance came within range, they would unleash everything they had. On the bridge of the Defiance, reviewed the tactical situation. "Captain, they are waiting for us. The moment we enter optimal firing range, they are going to hit us with everything." I know, replied, which is why we are not going to give them that chance. Greg, what is our missile count? Palmer checked his console. We have 72 missiles remaining, Captain. Mix of standard explosive and armor-piercing warheads. That should be enough. I want a full spread targeted on the flagship. All 72 missiles launched simultaneously. His eyes went wide. All of them, sir, that will leave us with no missile reserves for the rest of the battle. There will not be a rest of the battle if we do not take out that flagship. Their commander is the one holding the fleet together. Remove him, and they fall apart. Hesitated for only a moment before nodding. Aye, Captain, programming targeting solutions now. The next few minutes felt like hours. The Defiance continued her approach, eating up the distance between herself and the enemy fleet. They tracked her every movement, waiting for her to come within range of their weapons. Missile range in 30 seconds, Palmer announced. Hold fire, said. I want them to think we are coming in for a close-range engagement. Let them think we are overconfident. 20 seconds. Steady. 10 seconds. Fire. The Defiance's missile tubes opened, and 72 missiles launched in a single devastating volley. They streaked across the void, their engines burning bright against the darkness of space. The point defense systems tried to respond, but they were designed for the slow, predictable missiles used by other species. Human missiles were different. They were smaller, faster, and equipped with electronic countermeasures that made them nearly impossible to track. Some of the missiles were destroyed. Point defense lasers picked them off one by one, filling the space between the fleets with debris. But there were too many, moving too fast. The systems could not keep up. 43 missiles got through. The Eternal Conquest shuddered as explosions rippled across her hull. Her shields, already weakened from diverting power to other ships in the fleet, flickered and died under the sustained bombardment. Missile after missile struck home, tearing through armor plating and internal structures. One hit the main engine array, crippling the ship's propulsion. Another struck the bridge, killing half the officers at their stations. Fleet commander was thrown from his command chair as the deck beneath him heaved. He hit the floor hard, the breath driven from his lungs. Around him, fires burned and sparks flew from damaged consoles. The screams of wounded crew members filled the air. Report, he gasped, pulling himself to his feet. Give me a status report. A surviving officer staggered to his station, blood running down his face from a gash on his forehead. Multiple hull breaches, Commander. Engines are offline. Shields are gone. Weapons are at 30% capacity. The fleet. In disarray, Commander. They are breaking formation. Several ships are retreating. Looked at the which was cracked but still functional. The Defiance hung in the void, apparently undamaged, waiting for his response. Open a channel, he said quietly. The flickered and captain appeared. His face was calm, his posture relaxed. He looked like a man who had just finished a mild inconvenience rather than a battle against overwhelming odds. Fleet commander said, Your flagship is disabled, your fleet is in retreat, you have lost. Stared at the human with something approaching wonder. 20 minutes ago, he had been laughing at this species. Now he was standing in the ruins of his bridge, his fleet shattered, his pride destroyed. How, he whispered, how did you do this? Technology, replied. Training and motivation. Your people killed 4,000 of ours. Did you think there would be no consequences? We did not know, said. We did not understand what you were. Now you do, leaned forward slightly. I am sparing your life, fleet commander. Not because you deserve mercy, but because I need you to deliver a message to your masters. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity is not a species to be ignored. Tell them that we protect our own, and that anyone who threatens our people will face the same fate as your fleet. Said nothing, there was nothing to say. And tell them, continued, that if they ever threaten human space again, we will not send one ship. We will send everything we have, and we will not stop until your empire is nothing but ash and memories." The transmission ended. On the bridge of the Defiance, the crew sat in stunned silence. They had done it. They had actually done it. One destroyer against 47 enemy vessels, and they had won. Was the first to break the silence. "Captain, the remaining ships are withdrawing. They are not even trying to recover survivors. They are just running." Nodded slowly. "Let them run. Let them spread the word about what happened here." "Sir," Palmer said, "we have taken some damage. Minor hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. 17 injured, none critical. The forward sensor array is offline, but Chief Torres says she can have it repaired within the hour." "Good. Set a course for home. Best speed." "Aye, Captain." The Defiance turned away from the battlefield, leaving behind a graveyard of destroyed vessels. 23 ships had been destroyed or disabled. The rest were fleeing back to space, their crews spreading tales of the human monster that had single-handedly devastated their fleet. In his ready room, Captain stood at the window, staring out at the stars. The adrenaline of battle was fading, leaving behind a bone-deep weariness that he had felt too many times before. There was a chime at the door. "Come in," he said without turning. Entered, her uniform still bearing the scorch marks from a near miss during the battle. She walked to stand beside her captain, looking out at the same stars. "The crew is celebrating," she said. "We took down half a battle fleet with one destroyer. They are calling it a miracle." Shook his head. "It was not a miracle. It was the result of decades of work. Every engineer who designed our weapons, every scientist who developed our armor, every pilot who trained until they could fly in their sleep, every soldier who refused to accept that we were too small or too young to matter. Do you think that will leave us alone now?" Was silent for a long moment. "No, this is just the beginning. The galaxy knows about us now. Some species will fear us. Some will hate us. Some will want to test us to see if what happened here was a fluke or a sign of things to come. And when they test us—" Turned to look at her, and she saw something in his eyes that had not been there before the battle. A weight, a responsibility. "We will be ready," he said. "We will always be ready." Nodded slowly. "The message you sent to the commander, about sending everything we have if they threaten us again, was that a bluff?" "No." His voice was quiet but certain. "If they come after our people again, I will personally lead the fleet that wipes them from existence, and I will not lose a single night of sleep over it." He turned back to the window. "That is what they do not understand about us. Other species fight for territory, for resources, for power. We fight for each other. When you threaten one human, you threaten all of us. And there is nothing in this galaxy more dangerous than a human with someone to protect." The Defiance continued her journey through the void, carrying her crew back toward home. Behind them, the Dominion was already changing. The news of their defeat spread through the Empire like wildfire, causing panic and disbelief among a people who had never known defeat. In the great council chambers of the High Lords gathered to discuss what had happened. Fleet Commander stood before them, his wounds barely healed, his pride in tatters. "One ship," the High Lord said, his voice cold with anger. "You lost half a battle fleet to one ship." "They were unlike anything we have ever faced," replied. "Their weapons ignored our shields. Their maneuverability was beyond anything in our database. Their tactics were unpredictable, adaptive, creative. And you expect us to believe that one ship did all this?" "I do not expect you to believe anything, High Lord. I expect you to prepare. Because if the humans can do this with one vessel, imagine what they could do with 100 or 1,000. The council fell silent. They had built their empire on strength and intimidation. They had crushed every species that had ever challenged them. But now, for the first time in 300 years, they faced a foe that did not play by the rules they understood. "What do you recommend?" the High Lord finally asked. hesitated. Part of him wanted revenge. Part of him wanted to gather every ship in the Empire and descend on human space like a wave of destruction. But another part, the part that had looked into Captain's eyes and seen something he did not understand, urged caution. "Leave them alone," he said at last. "Do not provoke them. Do not challenge them. Let them have their territory, their colonies, their people, because if we go to war with them, I do not think we will win." "Cowardice," one of the other lords spat. "You would have us cower before a species that was barely spacefaring 2 centuries ago." "I would have us survive," replied. "Look at the records from the battle. Study their weapons, their tactics, their technology. They are not superior to us in any single area, but together it all adds up to something we have never seen before, something we are not prepared to fight." "And what is that?" Thought about the human captain, the calm in his voice, the certainty in his eyes, the way he had spoken about protecting his people as if nothing else in the universe mattered. "They are a species that has learned to fight as one," he said. "When one of them is threatened, they all respond. When one of them is killed, they all mourn. They do not have factions or divisions or internal conflicts. They are united in a way that we have never been, and that unity makes them the most dangerous species in the galaxy." The council debated for hours. In the end, they decided to do nothing. No retaliation, no further attacks, no attempts at negotiation. They would simply wait and watch, gathering intelligence on this new threat until they understood it better. It was the decision the Dominion ever made. In the months that followed, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. Species that had never heard of humanity suddenly knew their name. Ambassadors arrived at human colonies, seeking trade agreements and defensive pacts. Scientists requested permission to study human technology. Military commanders wanted to observe human training methods. Humanity, which had spent 2 centuries as an afterthought in galactic politics, was suddenly the most talked-about species in known space. On Earth, of the human species, the news was received with a mix of pride and concern. Pride that a single ship had achieved such an incredible victory. Concern about what it might mean for the future. In the halls of the Terran Confederacy government, debates raged about how to respond. Some wanted to expand the military, to build more ships like the Defiance and establish humanity as a dominant power. Others wanted to pursue diplomacy, to use their newfound reputation to negotiate peace with potentially hostile species. Captain Daniel took no part in these debates. His ship was being repaired, his crew was being honored, and he had a month of leave that he intended to spend doing absolutely nothing. He found himself, one evening, sitting on a beach on the colony world of New Hawaii, watching the twin suns set over the ocean. The sand was warm beneath him, and the sound of the waves was soothing in a way that the silence of space never could be. Lieutenant Commander found him there. "I thought I might find you here," she said, settling down beside him. "The crew has been asking about you." "What did you tell them?" "That you needed some time alone, that you had earned it." Nodded slowly. "How are they?" "Good, great actually. Most of them have gotten job offers from other commands. Everyone wants the crew that defeated the fleet." "Are any of them taking the offers?" Smiled. "Not a single one. They say they have not finished what they started. They want to stay with you, with the Defiance." Did not respond immediately. He watched the sun sink lower, painting the sky in shades of orange and red and purple. "Do you know why I joined the Navy?" he finally said. "No, sir. I was 15 years old when my colony was attacked by pirates, raiders from one of the outer systems. They killed my parents. They killed most of my neighbors. They would have killed me too if a Confederate patrol ship had not arrived in time." He picked up a handful of sand, letting it run through his fingers. "The captain of that ship was a woman named Grace. She saved my life. And when it was over, when the raiders were dead and the survivors were being evacuated, I asked her why she had come, why she had risked her ship and her crew to save a bunch of colonists she had never met. What did she say? She said it was because we were human, because protecting people was what the Navy was for, because she could not live with herself if she had done anything else. Turned to look at, and she saw the same fire in his eyes that had burned during the battle against the. That is why I joined. That is why I fight, not for glory or power or promotions, for people, for the colonists on that world the attacked, for every human being in the galaxy who needs someone to stand between them and the darkness. Was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You think there is going to be more darkness, do you not?" I know there is. Though we're just the beginning. There are species out there who see what happened and think it was a fluke. Species who want to test us. Species who are afraid of us and want to strike before we become too powerful. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and humanity just put a target on its back. So what do we do? Look back out at the setting suns. We prepare, we train, we build, and when the next threat comes, we meet it head-on, together. He stood up, brushing the sand from his uniform. "Come on," he said. "Let us go see the crew. I think they have earned a drink or two." As they walked away from the beach, the last light of the suns faded into darkness. Above them, the stars began to appear, one by one, filling the sky with points of light. Somewhere out there among those stars, other species were watching, some with fear, some with hope, some with plans of their own. The age of human obscurity was over. The age of human reckoning had begun. And at the center of it all was a single ship and her crew, a destroyer named Defiance, a captain named, and a promise that no matter what came next, humanity would face it together. Because that was what humans did. They fought for each other, they protected their own, and they never ever gave up. They had learned that lesson the hard way. The rest of the galaxy would learn it too. One way or another.